Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Bobby Burton and CJ Vogel. Going to talk about the Texas quarterbacks today. This edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by South Point Dodge. We'll tell you more about South Point Dodge here in just a little bit. But CJ, I'm going to start with you. And you had an article over at ontexasfootball.com that ran on Tuesday. Chicks dig the long ball, looking at explosive plays. This is something we've talked a lot about on the channel. I don't know if anybody has dove into it and gotten as granular as you did. The bottom line, CJ, and I'll let you take it from here, sounds like Arch Manning, his presence, his ability to drive the ball down the field is going to result in more explosive plays for this offense.
Yeah, of course, we've talked about this throughout the time that we saw Arch on the field a year ago, and obviously the expectations for 2025. What's going to change with this Texas offense? To me, it's that big home run hitting ability vertically down the field. Now, Texas had a lot of explosive plays. In fact, they were number one in the country in plays over 20 yards, but in large part due to the catch and run ability or just those outer ball placements of Quinn Ewers that didn't necessarily extend to those vertical hole shots as we've come to know with Arch, right? And, Texas had, I think a big part of that article was Texas had 10 plays of 50 or more yards last year, 5 of which coming with Arch Manning as the quarterback, one of which including his legs, right? So I think you're going to see a more vertical attack. And again, this isn't to discredit the Texas offense from a year ago. Obviously, leading the country in plays 20 yards or more, that's pretty significant. But in terms of those 40 to 50 to 60-yard plays that you see absolutely taking the top off of a defense, I think that's where you're going to see a lot more of those long balls in which the Chicks love.
See, CJ, the question I was going to get at actually is a little bit different than that, in that it's nice to hear those stats. And 5 of the 10 50-yard plus plays came through Arch Manning in one quarter or 1/5 of the time that Quinn Ewers saw. But are we actually hearing that is the case behind the scenes during fall camp, during spring camp? And I know what my sources say, but I want to hear what yours are saying.
Yeah, I've heard there are 2 guys right now that I've had circled to be those deep ball threats for Texas. And look, Ryan Wingo and that continuity from a year ago is one. The second is Parker Livingstone, who we heard a couple times, Bobby, going back to scrimmage number 1, was able to extend deep ball threats or deep ball completions multiple times in that first scrimmage. And that goes back to the spring in which he was really the lone guy on the field for Arch Manning with no DeAndre Moore, no Ryan Wingo. It's been a mainstay of Parker Livingstone's offseason in terms of being able to create and extend those big plays down the field, but also their frames and long striding speed is really what I want to emphasize. They might not be the quickest laterally, but those long striders, they proved to be quite the challenge. So yes, so far this fall camp, sounds like Wingo and Livingstone have been able to get free in the secondary.
And I would add this. He hit big plays last year to both DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo, as you pointed out in your article. I have heard that he has done that with Wingo and Livingstone multiple times this fall camp. So I feel really good about where Texas is at quarterback 1 right now. The question is can he go out and do it on a regular basis? Can Arch Manning be the guy that wins the game from the pocket for Texas? We'll see, but I think early returns in fall camp have been very, very promising in that regard, and as were the results last year, to your point, CJ.
Just a couple of numbers to pull from CJ's article, and again, you can go over to ontexasfootball.com and get the nitty gritty. But if you divvy up the snap totals, Texas had a 50-yard play once every 180.2 snaps with Quinn Ewers at quarterback, compared to once every 46.6 snaps with Arch Manning at quarterback. 4.17% of Quinn Ewers' dropbacks resulted in a pass completed of 20 yards or more down the field. 7.92% of Arch Manning's dropbacks resulted in a pass completed of 20 yards or more down the field. And CJ, I'll let you have this last point. When you look at the 10 50-plus yard plays for this offense last year that you broke down, you look at the ones Arch Manning threw. Let's take the running plays out of it. But you look at Arch Manning, 75-yard touchdown to Ryan Wingo against UTSA, a 51-yard touchdown reception by Isaiah Bond against UTSA, Bond, a 56-yard catch against ULM, DeAndre Moore, that 50-yard catch against Mississippi State. With Ewers, it was Trey Wisner with a 50-yard catch against Florida, Matthew Golden a 50-yard catch against Georgia in the SEC championship game, and then Ewers to Golden for a 54-yard catch against Arizona State. CJ, with the exception of one of those Isaiah Bond catches, I think it was the one against UTSA, all those were vertical shots down the field, whereas with Quinn Ewers, the only one of his that was a vertical shot was the one to Matthew Golden against Georgia. Everything else for Ewers was kind of a catch and run situation. I think this lends more credence to what you're talking about and what Bobby's saying about the receiver position. The explosive plays in the offense this year, it's going to be less about guys making yards after the catch, and now the quarterback's ability to throw the ball to the spot down the field and guys being able to run under it.
I think that's exactly it. And I've not gone back and totaled up the total number of air yards traveled per pass, but it would certainly lend more to that of Arch Manning throwing the ball vertically down the field. It's unfortunate that we also can't include the deep ball against Mississippi State to Jonte Cook, because that, again, was right in the breadbasket and would have been perfectly fitting what I'm trying to portray here. But point being is, how will this help the Texas offense? Well, we've talked about it with Rod Babers on live streams as well. When you're able to hit the home run, it gives you less of an opportunity to be thrown out on the bases. And what I mean by that is if you go down to down to down, just picking up 10 to 15 yards, yes, that's great. Yes, you're moving the football, but that higher volume of snap gives you more of an opportunity to turn the ball over or stall. So that's really where I'm hoping we see Texas really start to improve upon in 2025. And again, 50-yard plays are tough. I'm not saying that Texas is going to come out there totaling 50-yard plays every single snap, but you should see more of that home run ability, which, again, keeps you out of the red zone, which I think every Texas fan might be a little excited about.
Well, I would say this, too. You mentioned that stat to start this. Texas had more 20-yard plays or more than anybody in the country. They were number one in that stat. They fell all the way to number 17 when it came to 50-yard plays or more.
And that was with a lot of speed last year, Bobby.
With a lot of speed and a lot of games. I mean, Texas played a lot more games and had just about other than three other teams.
Yep.
So I think that's part of it too. But good stuff, CJ. I thought it was an excellent article, and I do think that it gives people a sense with raw data as well as some visuals to understand what Texas is going to do differently with Arch Manning at quarterback.
No doubt. We'll talk about the depth behind Arch Manning here in just a second. But right now, I want to thank our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Football. That's our friends at South Point Dodge. And Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, and their award-winning sales staff doesn't do games or gimmicks. They just get straight to the point by getting you the best deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Come see them off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. Bobby, let's talk about the backup quarterback spot. 3 guys competing for QB2 right now. What are you hearing the latest on that battle between Matthew Caldwell, Trey Owens, and KJ Lacy?
Well, through Tuesday's practice, I'm told that Trey Owens remains the number 2 quarterback. Based off of scrimmage 1, I didn't know if Sark would make a move and move Caldwell to the number 2 quarterback early or not. But Trey Owens, through Tuesday's practice, I'm told, has remained the number 2 quarterback. The reason I say that is because Caldwell had 2 drives, according to Steve Sarkisian, of 13 and 16 plays on Saturday. That is absolutely exactly what you want your backup quarterback to do. You want them to be able to sustain drives, whether it's with their legs or with their arm, get you into the right plays, and give your defense a rest. You're not looking for a world beater necessarily at backup quarterback. You're looking at a bus driver or looking for a bus driver, right? Now, especially in a time of emergency. I want to put that out there. So an emergency time. Now, if you have 2 weeks to prepare for somebody, I think you could be talking about a different situation. But as of right now, what I'm being told is Trey Owens was running with the 2s, KJ Lacy with the 3s, Matthew Caldwell with the 4s. But watch out for Matthew Caldwell right now.
It does seem, CJ, and we can look at a number of different position groups within this team where Texas took a guy out of the portal and it's lit a fire under somebody. Alex January, interior D-line, Jordan Washington at tight end, Parker Livingstone at wide receiver. It seems like, if nothing else, the fact that KJ Lacy and Trey Owens have a sense of competition with Matthew Caldwell coming in the long run, it should make both of those guys better. And in the big picture, I think what everybody wants, it's going to make the quarterback position at Texas healthier.
It absolutely will. And again, it's a guy that has experience coming in with Matthew Caldwell. You can't talk about really anybody else on that Texas quarterback position room with any of that experience. But to your point, bringing in that competition is pushing that position. I think, of course, going into the season, I don't think anybody was pushing for starter snaps outside of Arch Manning. Now that competition is still there. Guys are still driving behind the scenes in film. They're going to treatment. They're meeting with those guys in those second and third team offenses, making sure that they're up to speed for when their number is called in scrimmages like we will see again on Saturday. So that's really the big thing, is making sure that competition is prevalent in each position room, even when there's an All-American level caliber player, kind of leading that depth chart at the moment.
I want to say this. Trey Owens isn't just getting competition from Matthew Caldwell either. I mean, KJ Lacy, I don't want to call him a revelation because we saw some of what he could do in the spring, but his escapability, his ability to find open receivers. He was a pass-first quarterback in high school. We've been ultra impressed with him in the work that we've seen independently, right, guys?
Yes.
But we heard he had a really good scrimmage on Saturday as well. I don't think Trey Owens is just feeling it from one of those two. I think he's got two guys that are very different that are kind of breathing down his neck a little bit right now.
Bobby, based on what we've seen, what you've heard, when you think about the future of this position and that what the big picture looks like down the road for Trey Owens and KJ Lacy, have you heard anything that's changed your viewpoint, solidified the viewpoint? Where are you at on the two young guys in that room?
Well, I mean, Trey Owens is in a precarious position, okay, because he's a year older than KJ Lacy. So he expects to play a year earlier than maybe KJ Lacy would. So Arch Manning essentially sat for 2 years. Well, this would be the second year of sitting for Trey Owens, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Does he get an itchy trigger finger and want to hit the portal? We don't know. Right? We can't say that because we're not inside his head. KJ Lacy, however, his entire plan this time for playing at Texas was to sit at least 1 year, if not two, to add some armor. He is not the biggest quarterback. If you see him, he's going to look smallish. He looks very Bryce Young, is what CJ, the term that CJ used. He's not a thick, heavy set, smaller guy. My question for CJ, and if this situation goes sideways and Arch is out, is KJ Lacy the long-term answer this year? Not just. I mean, I thought KJ Lacy looked good. I heard he looked good in the scrimmage again. I think Caldwell's the immediate backup long-term, even though Sark hasn't gone there. But Lacy has a little something extra to him, CJ.
Yeah, I think so. And when I first heard that we were doing this video, Bobby, I texted a source and asked, how would you describe KJ Lacy in one word and what you've seen from him so far in fall camp? And that word was elusive. Now, tell me if you've seen a Sarkisian quarterback really since Jake Locker that's been described as elusive. Would it be all the way back to Jake Locker? I lend to think so. So what that tells me is there's more to his game than just his arm. And again, this is a guy that has the second most career passing yards in Alabama State football history. That's nothing to just put to the side. But when you add that elusivity and the ability to extend or create with his legs, I think that gives you something that nobody else on this roster, maybe saving Arch, can really provide. So I think that's really encouraging on top of that. But to your question, Bobby, who would be that big savior should an Arch go down? Is it Lacy? Is it Caldwell? Is it Owens? I think there's something that Lacy provides right now that the other two, quite frankly, do not.
Jeff, I got to ask you, you're sitting back here and playing the deliverer of questions right now. what are your thoughts on the quarterback position as a whole, particularly beyond Arch? Because I think we all are on the same page there, but the backup, second, third, fourth string.
It's twofold. My opinion is a little bit skewed because I go back to what you said about Trey Owens, and I just think it's nothing against Trey Owens and his future. It's nothing against how Sark and AJ Milwee handle the position. Just in the day and age of the transfer portal, a guy that has to sit for longer than probably he wants to. In other words, if Arch Manning comes back like we expect him to for 2026, I just don't see how Trey Owens is going to sit that third year, Bobby. And on top of that, assuming whatever film gets out on him this year, he can still strike while the iron's hot. So I think he would do himself a disservice, almost, as crazy as that sounds, by sitting and waiting too long. At the same time, I'm kind of, CJ mentioned the Bryce Young-ish build of KJ Lacy. The more I watch KJ Lacy, the more I like him. Just his mechanics. He's so smooth. He's one of those guys that almost makes playing quarterback look boring. He's just so natural at it and so smooth. And to CJ's point about the elusiveness, I think we need to make sure how we're using that term, because I think, it doesn't always equate to, Vince Young and the ability to hit the big run, or like a Lamar Jackson. Go back and look at the 2022 Alabama game, the game that Bama won in Austin. Bryce Young's elusiveness won them that game, and it wasn't that he ran for a big run. It was his ability to field Ryan Watts coming on a corner blitz, slipped out of it, got up the field, and that set up a game-winning field goal. So when we say elusiveness with KJ Lacy, I think that's a big part of it too.
We're not talking about a 1,000-yard rusher,
right?
That's not to your point. And I would add to this, to what you just said there, Jeff. Michael Hawkins at OU last year, he is elusive, but he may not be a quarterback, right? I mean, we're talking about a guy that's elusive and keeps his head up downfield.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about here with KJ Lacy. CJ.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of war flashbacks with that Bryce Young spin out of the corner blitz reference there, Jeff. But it is very similar in that regard. That we go back to when KJ Lacy signed in the press conference on National Signing Day from Steve Sarkisian. He goes back and tells the story of him and AJ Milwee watching the first few plays of KJ in high school and just writing down a post-it note, Bryce Young, sliding it over and saying, "That's our guy." So I don't think that comparison's too far-fetched. Now, of course, will he win a Heisman? We'll have to wait and see in terms of what his time at Texas will provide. But right now, a lot of positives in terms of what the promise of KJ Lacy will eventually be in burnt orange and white.
Yep. We're talking about the backups, talking about Arch. We haven't even mentioned Diabell in this video because there's no need to right now since he's not on campus. The future of the quarterback position at Texas, very, very bright, and that room is as healthy as it's been in a very, very long time.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed it stays that way, Jeff.
Hey, in the post-Colt McCoy era, I think Texas fans, observers, everybody at large learn, don't take anything for granted. Enjoy every ounce of success or hope that this program has. Bobby, CJ, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to the entire On Texas Football staff. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, get over there right now. You get CJ's article, Bobby's daily post. Jerry's always posted about recruiting, myself, Blake Monroe, the whole crew contributing over there. Use the promo code OTFOG when you sign up. That's OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access on Texas football for $39.95. You don't want to miss a minute of it. Make sure you like this video and you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's on the channel or over on the site, you're not missing anything in the run-up to the season. And don't forget, it's Wednesday, so that means the Wednesday night live stream, 7:15, right here on the channel. That's myself, CJ, and it's hosted by our lockdown corner here on Texas Football. That'd be Rod Baber. So join the three of us. Bring your questions, bring your super chats. We'll have a good time tonight on the live stream. For Bobby, for CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.